Okay. So let us go over the history again. So we were in the part where Cubans started fighting for their independence, and where Cubans had started fighting for abolishing slavery. Because guys, well, it is a detail I didn't mention in French when I was speaking in French. Most of the colonies on the Caribbean region and Latin American colonies, they started the process of, well, liberating themselves by the beginning of 19th century. Bolivar was the one that, well, gave the freedom to most of the ex-colonies in Central and Latin American countries. And although that has had an influence in Cuban colony, the fact that Cuba is an island did not make possible that Cuba was, say, invaded by people who were leading the liberating process, Bolivar, and Cuba was along the last countries to get the independence from the colony, and also Cuba was among the last countries to abolish slavery, 1886. So there was a first war of independence in Cuba that lasted 10 years, from 1868 to 1878, but neither Cubans independentists nor Spaniards could get the victory. So there was a treaty of peace that was signed by most of Cuban independentists, most of, not all of them, and there was like a peace period for close to 20 years, and then again in 1895, Marty, our national hero, the one we're going to visit his tomb over there at the cemetery, he organized the Second War of Independence against Spaniards, 1895. It lasted 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, more or less the same situation. Neither Spaniards nor Cuban independentists could obtain the victory. And then Americans came into the war. They invaded Cuba, they landed in Santiago, they took Santiago, helped by Cuban independentists, and they destroyed the Spaniard fleet by the entrance of the bay where we're going to go to the fortress, to El Morro fortress, and they stayed in Cuba. They occupied Cuba for 4 years, 1898 to 1902. Now 1902, they said to Cuban independentists who wanted to establish a republic, do you want us to finish the occupation? Well, these are the conditions. Voted at the American Congress the Platt Amendment. The name of the amendment is Platt because it was the Congressists who proposed the law that was voted in the American Congress. Well, the Americans had the right to invade Cuba if things in Cuba were not going at their desires. Say, yes, if there was any revolt in Cuba, they had the right to invade Cuba. And indeed, they did so. 1906, 1912. Also, they had the right to have naval bases in Cuba. So Guantanamo Bay, one of them. And also, according to that amendment, they also bought this island, which is here, south of Havana, the island of the Pine. Yes, till 1994. No, 1934. Americans, by law, they were the owners of that island that is part of Cuba. Then they gave it to the American government. I'm going to explain you why, more details, I remind now. Well, 1912, again, they invaded Cuba. And then, well, presidential periods, like Republicans and also conservators. And, well, they took, let's say, power one after the other. And in 1930, there was a guy, a person who became president who had been an independentist, a general that fought against the Spaniards, Gerardo Machado. But he became a dictator. And then, well, Cuban people made a kind of revolution and they took him out of the power. So, 1930s, the American ambassador, well, gave the idea to Cubans to make what it is called, or known in Cuban history, as the pentarchy, la pentarquía. It was a government that was constituted